EDG. Both teams doing pretty well coming up into the summer split, with EDG leading the tables alongside LNG with a undefeated score, I think, across both teams. But enough of that, we'll get into it in just a moment. As we already see from EDG side, the set pick coming in along with the Thresh. Will we see an Aphelios as well? The Ezreal was taken away from EDG, Flandre's most played champion by far. Actually, not really by far, just by a little bit, by some small margins. Following that, there's of course the Kaisa pick, which I think Viper, along with the top 80 carries in the league, actually execute to perfection. Meanwhile, on the side of JDG, they have somehow managed to secure themselves the second most banned champion in the league in the form of that Nocturne, as well as given Loken his Ezreal. Loken's most played champion this split is actually Jin, surprisingly. One of the few, if not the only 80 carries in the LPL who still finds interest in that champion. And wow, look at that suit that the coach is wearing. My goodness. Now it looks to be a Diana jungle and a Nocturne in lane, as kind of what you would begin to expect, as on side of EDG there is a jungle pick as well as a potential mid lane or top lane pick that is still available. And on their side, they do have the Sylas option. Of course, Sylas is exceptional in this current draft. So JDG coming out of ban phase ahead will probably still want to ban Sylas, considering the fact that their ultimates are not as juicy and succulent. I mean, EDG's ultimates are not as juicy and succulent as theirs, because a Sylas stealing an Ezreal and a Diana ult is about as catastrophic as you can get. Meanwhile, the Box Showstopper and of course Moonlight Vigil are not exactly the most groundbreaking, earth-shattering picks that you can really go for. Now, JDG, I'm pretty sure that there's a huge emphasis right now on you having to ban Sylas, because if you don't, alright, you're doomed. Unless you pick him here. In which case, I really don't know. I mean, Sylas is the most played champion by Scout right now on EDG, the mid laner for EDG, and it's the second most played champion by Yagao. But for Yagao, Zoe is his most played champion. I honestly think you should have gone for Zoe here, because it fits your comp a little bit better. Sylas would make your composition look so. Oh my goodness, what is he doing? This is a catastrophe. This is actually a catastrophe. If Oh no, this is terrible. I mean, okay, the Leona pick's fine. I mean, the Leona pick's good. Rakan, not so, because he can get flayed out of his grand entrance, in which case he'll be completely useless, no gap closer. But right now, EDG literally have the ball in their court. They have got the game in their hands. They have got literally everything they could have ever wanted. Just pick Sylas here, and then pick Xin Zhao. Perfect. Sylas, Xin Zhao. This is actually perfect. They're not going for Sylas. Do they not see the potential? They don't. What? Why is there such an emphasis? I'm actually a little bit baffled, gobsmacked by the emphasis on LeBlancs across two leagues right now. So one, we have the PCS. I cannot believe it. How does JDG get Sylas? And why would you pick Sylas in this composition? You really don't have any good ultimates to steal. Pick Zoe. Okay, Azir is perfectly fine too. One of those two. And I think they're just flashing it so that EDG realize, like, oh my god, this is great. I'm so confused. EDG's most played mid laner is Sylas. Why would you not pick it here? It's so perfect. Solar Flare, Trusha Barrage, Moonfall. I mean, not really the Paranoia and whatever the mid lane pick was going to be, I suppose, because if this was a Zoe, it'd be kind of pointless too. But still, bro, homie, my guy. No. No. Okay, beyond that, let's look at the lane. So, top lane, I think Set gets priority for most part. Nocturne's gonna have a hard time touching the wave. The swaps haven't come down yet for Kanavi and Lavmao, but as soon as they do that, Diana is definitely weaker in the early game, as well as the fact that Azir is most definitely weaker than LeBlanc, although push might go in favor of Azir. So if we're looking at priorities, we're gonna give top lane priority to EDG, mid lane priority to JDG, jungle power heavily in favor of EDG. And in terms of the bot lane potential, while scaling is most definitely on the side of JDG, I think range advantage given and the double range pick also mean that EDG will have bot lane priority. So it'll be so it's very interesting. So EDG attacking from the sides, pretty much with JDG barreling it down straight down the middle. That being said, I must say, given the strength of the mid jungle 2v2, I'd say that to the large extent, EDG have almost, on paper, will have almost complete control of the early to mid game. If they choose to make some invades or anything of the sort, then JDG are going to have to be quite reactive, not so much proactivity given to you when you draft so much scaling on your team with your mid laner as well as to a certain extent your bot lane, I suppose. Because Ezreal like spikes mid game and it gets kind of strong towards the end, scales pretty decently, but in the early game really doesn't do all that much damage. With Leona though, of course, a little bit of it. There might be a bit of a difference over there because the Leona does give you extra damage with her passive. So we can expect, I think, EDG's jungler JJ to maybe even get some invades in. You see there's a question mark ping going on to the red buff right now of JDG. I really think that invading is probably the best course of action. Not so much setup for your lanes really there. I mean, Scout has chains, which takes a while, easy to flash. Meanwhile, Flandre does have the face breaker, which I mean it's not easy to flash. I mean it's quite easy to flash also, but also the range is pretty short. Bot lane has the hooks and the flays, but I don't think you really want to gank that lane too much. As already a bit of a fight going down in the top side as Zoom stepping out aggressively using his glaives, Umbro glaives to just get some sustain back. As in the bot side, Mako and Viper stepping forward aggressively, knowing that level 1 dominance is assuredly theirs, considering the fact that Love Mao on his Leona will only have one spell. Chances are it is going to be the Shield of Daybreak, forced to farm already with the Mystic shots. So across the board, both teams looking kind of cool. See, EDG is in second place. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, second place and not first. And I think yesterday we were casting FPX versus RNG, and RNG was at 2 to 3 star and it was 17th place. Right now, JDG is only one win up and one loss down, and already they are 12 spaces higher than RNG was at the time. Right now, RNG, of course, probably has taken a tumble down into maybe even. Wait, he was 12th place, right? They were 12th place. Yeah, they were 12th place. So it was 7 places down. So they may be even 13th place at this point in time. It really depends on how every other team went. Hard to say. As a bit of chunking goes down in the bot side. Nothing too major or catastrophic just particularly yet. That being said, Viper is having a pretty easy time dictating the lane with his sniper rifle. And JJ is making his way into the bot side jungle. Will easily get that Scuttle Crab. Doesn't look to be too much action going to unfold. It's definitely all the action is going to be on the side of EDG. It's up to them to be as proactive as possible. Looking at the scaling, I'd say the EDG have decent scaling as well. JDG, of course, as the with the aforementioned Azir, Ezreal, and to a certain extent, I almost forgot the Diana as well, because later on her team fights are going to be absolutely key. Not to mention the fact that she will have Zhonya's pretty much every fight, so she can go in, get 5 people, and then just go gold, stop, drop, and roll, I suppose you could say. As I'm just gonna take one quick second. Oh, the nose, perfect time to act up. Now, despite the fact that I said a teleport is coming up towards the top side, despite the fact that I did say most of the proactivity will most likely come from EDG in the early game. Let's not put anybody in a box here, as JDG definitely have some tools available to them, especially towards the bot side, to make some early game plays as well. So while we are waiting here expectantly for EDG to make plays, Kanavi can pull out a miracle cure. Though most likely what's going to happen here is he's going to farm till 6 and then look for something. Surprisingly, mid lane priority doesn't seem to be going in favor of the Azir as I predicted. In fact, Scout playing quite aggressively, jumping in onto Yagao, making him misplace his soldiers and maybe even not allow him to get in range to hit the wave. Means that, ooh, nice positioning. Means that he actually will have control of the mid lane. As we see, it's going to be a 2v2 going unfolding before our very eyes. I must say, when it comes to this form of a 2v2, I heavily favor EDG, as the Sinja LeBlanc combo are looking a lot more threatening than the Diana Azir combo, the two of the scalers on the side of JDG. And it looks like JDG are fully aware of this, actually, just using this time to try and clear out whatever vision they can on their side of the map, not even stepping forward into the river to try and clear out that pixel bush, despite having it. Actually, no, it's not. Wait, yes, it wasn't Warden, sorry. Now JJ in the bot side is starting up Dragon with his 2 lanes of priority, and it seems like I did get 2 lanes wrong, as Zoom does appear to have priority over Flandre. The Nocturne doing better than the set in lane. It's kind of surprising because I figured that the set would really enjoy being able to walk up and auto attack the Nocturne. But I suppose the Umbro Glaives as well as is it Umbro Blades or Glaives? Umbro Blades as well as the Qs just doing too much damage. And it is a bit hard to trade onto a Nocturne because he does fear you. But his mana consumption is pretty high, to be fair. So you'd expect that to be a decent trade, and then you can use the Haymaker Shield in order to tank up the fear, as well as return some damage back onto him. Although the spell shield might come out, he might mince you up after. So, I suppose there is a little bit of a cause for concern. Okay, well, so far it's been a pretty chill game. 6 minutes in, we have, looking at the gold lead, a 500 gold in favor of EDG. And that gold, to a large extent, seems to be coming from the mid lane as well as the AD carries. So the two kind of carries for EDG are doing pretty well for themselves. In the late game, Scout isn't gonna have as easy a time to contributing into fights as Yagao is. However, he's still gonna be a huge nuisance as Death Sentence nearly hits Loken. Kanavi was in the area, so a very rapid response was possible on the side of JDG as the root does come down from Gravitum. Love Mouse taking a little bit of harass, kind of an uncomfortable lane to be a Leona, honestly, with the Flay available. Now, Kanavi is here, and it looks like they may be able to bait a fight here if they add the hook, but looks like they don't try for some reason. As now Loken is just getting absolutely 200 years upon. And I think Kanavi, having hit level 6, I'm not sure if he just hit level 6 or he was level 6 just now. I think he could have made a play down here. Although, to be fair, both of the flashes were still available from the side of EDG's bot lane. But to be fair, where else are you really going to make a play? No one really ganks for a Nocturne. And ganking a LeBlanc with an Azir is a pretty tall order itself. So I think I would have liked to see him pull the trigger there towards bot side. It's not like he's going to get a clear path through into the river, into bot through the river, because as we can see, and as JDG might not be fully aware but can suspect, given they're just constantly pushed in under the tower, is that they have the river completely warded up. Now Zoom might find himself in a very surprising situation as Kanavi blast plants over the wall into the Rift Herald pit, and when the Paranoia comes down, looks like both the mid lanes are moving out, flash back in as the Moonfall comes in. Unfortunately, doesn't seem to hit many targets, and it looks like Kanavi is going to be the target of EDG, and the slide comes through just in case, trying to save their jungler. Thankfully, it is not necessary as both Flandre and JJ take a tumble. Scout jumping over the wall, looking for blood, looking for Kanavi, and will find him. Unfortunately, jumps back onto Yagao, does have flash available, but will not have a distortion in 3, 2, 1, will now be able to jump out of the fight. And just like that, assassination, but it looks like a slide comes in. The pursuit is in. Yagao with his auto attacks actually doing tons of damage. Escorting Scout out of his own side of the jungle, but in the bot side, they have somehow been pushed off of tower, despite the fact that the jungler has been killed. It looks like Mako and Viper actually exerting tons of pressure towards this side of the map, as Lovemao has now abandoned his AD carry and opted to roam towards Rift Herald. Maybe this is what Kanavi was trying to do here as the Paranoia comes in. Really, there's just a good focus coming in here. Look at that. Actually, the set ultimate, I think, solo tanked the Moonfall activation as well as the damage. Unfortunately, JJ not able to do what he could. But Scout, good job here, kind of predicting where Kanavi would be, picking up the ball where his teammates kind of dropped it. And Yagao, unfortunately, by sending his soldiers over the wall, is left to just auto-attack a LeBlanc to death. Attempt to Sandy bludgeon her, I suppose. And overall, I must say EDG have a pretty good, even though that fight went in favor of JDG, by no means are EDG feeling uncomfortable right now. Because as we see, despite the kills going in favor of JDG, the gold is still in favor of EDG. Ever so slightly, about 300 gold. It's about 1 kill in their favor, and that's mostly from the tower platings from bot lane. As you see, Loken is 600 gold down from Viper, and the range advantage is just absolutely tyrannical down in the bot side. With only 1 plating left, it is really a tower at its wit's end, and it looks to be taking a tumble soon if nothing is done here. by the solo laners and jungler of JDG, then this tower is not long for the world. Already, Kanavi is pathing towards bot side, is actually just following the path of his clear, however, and upon spotting JJ in the bottom side river, it doesn't look like he's going to attempt anything, as I think Rift Herald is about to be dropped just to pressure Yagao a little bit. Let's see if EDG are able to crack open this game, because the scaling is already going in their favor ever so slightly with the Noon Quiver having been completed. Scout jumping forward to just get some harass onto Yagao. Quick bursts are his forte, as the Flay does come through and a very aggressive pathing, but JJ is jumped onto in the river using his ultimate to try and knock away one member of JDG. Unfortunately, Zoom stays on him and just slaps him to death. There was a teleport paranoia combination coming in, which will secure them the first dragon of the game at 11 minutes. Unfortunately, that's pretty much all that is going to happen, it seems. As EDG very content with the slow pace of the game. They did have the option to be aggressive early, as we already established, but it looks like they recognize the fact that they don't even need to be aggressive early. Now, will that pay off in the long run? Well, that really depends. So far, despite the fact that JDG are slightly behind in terms of gold, overall they are still quite comfortably even, I would say, because it's not like one player is particularly far behind. It's not like even Loken isn't particularly far behind in terms of gold, as 12 minutes into the game, looks like EDG are going to zone JDG off this one final wave and finally take down the tower, taking a little tumble. Now will they rotate to the top lane and start pressuring across the map as well? There's really nothing for them down here. Dragon is already gone. Mid lane is a bit hard to siege against an Azir, and you can always siege that last since it's already been chunked to half. Just rotate your bot laners top. Oh my goodness, blue buff nearly stolen away by EDG because JDG refused to smite it or last hit it. Now JJ is a little bit out of position, but the lantern will be available to save him should a situation arise where he needs to be rescued. And by rotating their bot lane up towards top side, they'll also be able to preemptively prepare for Rift Herald. So I think that is going to be the best play here. Running into the mid lane, a little bit uncomfortable if you ask me, and I think EDG recognized this as well. So after the rotation, I expect a little bit of a reset coming in here. Yep, let's see if he's finished his... What would you go for here? Probably Gale Force. Actually, no. Shield Bow for sure. Look at the dive they have. This is 100% a Shield Bow game. And despite his best efforts, he's actually not too close to it. In fact, his items look more like they're heading towards a Gale Force or a Kraken Slayer rather than a Shield Bow, as JJ just continuing his farming despite playing the stronger early game champion, just opting to farm up a Storm. Now, on the side of JDG, looking at the items, despite being still constantly behind in terms of gold, they have gotten a couple of mythic items on their team. Yagao right now seems to be one of the furthest people away, doesn't even have the second component to what could be a Luden's Echo or a Liandry's Anguish. And EDG, as expected, are beginning their siege of the top lane, with Zoom having to flash out of a box as well as a Thresh Xin Zhao combo. Meanwhile, Kanavi is rotating now towards the mid lane, but it's exceptionally hard to make a play onto a LeBlanc unless she distortions forward and you can CC her in time to absolutely explode her. But that does not look to be the case, as JDG sieging mid lane right now, and EDG in response are giving it up in favor of playing through top side. Meanwhile, in the bottom side, I don't think Flandre is having the time of his life up against an Azir. But looking at the gold, he is actually 300 gold ahead. In fact, somehow Flandre getting Yaga under tower. And the last minion hit, will it do the trick? Apparently not, with the corrupting pot ticking. Not quite sure what happened there. Flandre at full HP and Love Mao now caught in the jungle. Thankfully, the team does have his back. And as a result, EDG actually little wins across the board as they take tier 3 top tower and manage to defend all of their towers, sometimes without even being there, as is the case in mid lane. JDG opting for invade to get some deep vision rather than to chunk out the tower. Seeing as to how healthy the tower is, that's probably a good choice, as they probably wouldn't be able to won't even have the damage to take it down. Whew. Oh, whoops! I didn't get to see what happened over there. Wait, did Flandre have to? No, he did flash. I thought he. I mean, based off of the map, it looked like he kind of flashed. Anyways, one of the slower LPL games that we have had the privilege to cast by, for sure, And we can only say all I can say is that's a build up, ladies and gentlemen. It's the slow and eventual build up to the bubbling volcano. That is what every LPL game promises to be. As it looks like Kanavi is about to be face checked by a hook and now flayed over the wall. The ultimate is coming in, pulling in 3 people as the Paranoia jumps through as well. It looks like EDG are routed as they lose their jungler. Flash into the dev centers. Does Kanavi go as the set jumps in with the chains? And it looks like Liv Mao is left high and dry, but his team is around him. But the Haymaker is enough to just one-shot him fresh out of the Zhonya's. Out of the stopwatch. My apologies. And I didn't expect, see, like I said, the bubbling volcano of anticipation, ladies and gentlemen, as without a doubt, LPL games are all about the action, and sooner or later, even the players themselves are naturally gravitating towards it. It is like gravity, it is fate, it is destiny, it's a bait. Oh yeah. I like that one. Okay, so because I like that, I'm gonna write that down. Because, I mean... And we're back. Okay, so a little bit of action unfolding, and EDG with as expected will be starting up and probably securing themselves this Rift Herald without much contest attempts or opportunities opened up for JDG as gold lead has expanded now into 3,000 gold. We see here face checking into the hook, a nice little flay over the wall. And the beautiful ultimate return turning on to the members of EDG, and we saw the Infernum Moonlight visual coming in there, surprisingly not absolutely decimating the entirety of JDG. But as the game goes on, that will become more and more of a concern because the Aphelios, of course, will be able to explode what looks to be a mostly bruiser and squishy team composition coming out from JDG. And we see in the bottom left hand side, EDG with absolute control of the map are taking every single neutral objective they can. Scout so far has done a fantastic job just skulking around the sides and waiting for team fights to end and picking off the people who thought they escaped. You cannot escape, you cannot live, you cannot get out of a fight with EDG. They will hunt you down. Even though they don't have a Rengar or maybe even a Kha'Zix, they do have a Scout on LeBlanc who is, some might argue, even more menacing, even more scary, even more bloodthirsty. As now he finds Kanavi, in fact... I should say that again. He is even more bloodthirsty. He is even more driven. He is even more motivated, and he now wants Kanavi's head. Maybe even that blue buff as he jumps forward with the distortion and chunks out Kanavi while taking his blue buff, stealing the kid's candy before his very eyes from his live, writhe, and kicking body. Alas, what can you do in those kinds of situations as you were envisioned and he was not? Kanavi did not have flash either, and it looks like they want revenge as they jump in onto him now with the Paranoia. Does not have stopwatch available, and the fear comes through, allowing Zoom to secure himself yet another kill. 5 kills, 100% kill rate, not even participation right now. We are talking as Zoom, as good as this might feel, I don't think this bodes very well for the entirety of his team as Kanavi and Loken are being chunked out in the mid lane while Rift Herald takes out the last outer tower on the side of JDG. Second rush will not be going through, and I think now, ladies and gentlemen, we can prepare for more action as Yaga face checks into yet another hook and flay, and while he knocks the team into the tower, into the waiting arms of a Moonfall as the follow-up is there with the solar flare as well. Nice cleanse coming out from Viper. It looks to be the end of the fight. No more gap closes available for JDG. And a 1-for-2 coming out here. 1-for-1? 1-for-2. 1-for-1. And a 1-for-1 coming out. But so far, EDG actually playing fantastically with the vision. Face check, forcing JDG to face check numerous times so dangerously and always being there to capitalize on it, especially Mako. He hasn't hit any impressive hooks, but he's always been in position. He's always created these pockets of vision or absence of vision and then always been there to capitalize on it, as we see in the bot side here. I mean, we really replayed this. Scout, there's really nothing you could do having used his distortion already to try and clear out the waves. And it looks like Flandre now looks to turn it out onto Zoom. Zoom with the biggest shutdown. Actually, no shutdown at all, but I guess he is the strongest member of the team. Flandre really not wanting too much from that living nightmare. as no objective is going to be on the map for another 40 seconds. Baron will be the first, of course, as we see JJ securing himself some deep vision. He is behind Zoom, but has no idea that he is in that location. As Lemao just trying to keep his own jungle as safe as possible, trying to clear out whatever wards he can, trying to avoid his squishies or himself even having to face check into yet another Death Sentence Flay box combo. As in the top side, both the mid laners just duking it out as always. First items have come in finally for Yagao, and across the board, let's see, taking stock of who has what active items. So we have a Zhonya's available already on the side of Kanavi, despite not really participating in many kills or anything. Does have a fair amount of assists and has been farming up a decent storm. And as a result, will have his Zhonya's available. So he is at the point where he can try and get a big, huge ultimate and then just go, stop, drop, and roll in the middle of the enemy team. Meanwhile, Stopwatch is also available for Yagao. There is a dive composition on the side of EDG, of course, which necessitates some defensive items because Scout can get on top of you. Flandria will also not have too hard of a time, and neither will JJ, truth be told. Although JJ, one would argue, will have the hardest time by far and beyond. The fact remains, however, that EDG are still very dangerous. Logan has gotten to his 2-item power spike about the same time that Viper has completed his 2 items. However, interestingly enough, Viper opting for the Gale Force, I suppose wanting to get out of position for get out of the Moonfall circle, or maybe even get away from Yagao should he attempt to Shurima shuffle him into his team. Which is a pretty good idea, I think. Now, one more minute before a dragon spawns. As a result, we see Viper perhaps looking to go back and pick himself up another component of an item. Yagao though needs to be careful as him or Kanavi could be picked off here by Scout. Scout waiting patiently in the bushes like a coiled viper. He is waiting to strike as JDG 4-man in the mid lane with Scout just hovering towards the side. Wants to chunk out, wants to one-shot Yagao as he jumps in over the wall. Blows almost his entire summoner spell, blows almost his entire spell load onto Yagao, but stops his back. Unfortunately, it's not really going to do too much as Yagao's already pushed in the wave and will have teleport to join his team as well. Both teams are standing off in the river, not wanting to allow each other too much of a presence in there as the teleport is coming in. Viper looks to be in position to try and capitalize on Yagao's positioning. Fortunately though, the rest of EDG was not in position. Inside sweep priority is in favor of EDG as JDG make them way into the river. It looks like they do have the position for it. They do have the damage to very quickly burst it down as a straight on 5v5 looks to be coming down. Flandre looking for an opening as the smite does indeed go in favor of Kanavi. Hook lands onto Lemao as in comes Zoom right on to Viper, and in the sides we see both Love Mao and both Love Mao and Loken jumping in onto Scout as Zoom is actually decimated by the Haymaker. Flandre in the front lines with the Sterak's Gauge absolutely tanking up everything as Love Mao is soon to be taken out. Flandre jumps in and in jumps Diana as well, leading to a trade of kills, but Loken is alone in a 1v3 situation while Scout is teleporting down towards the mid lane, and a complete and utter annihilation of JDG unfolds before our very eyes. And I'm not quite sure what in the world happened there. I think Scout just managed to distract both Love Mao as well as Loken for long enough. Flandre, somehow, I'm not quite sure how Zoom ended up in his own backline over there, but I'm pretty sure we can avail ourselves to a replay, as I don't believe there's going to be an attempted steal coming in here. Zoom does have teleport, but no ultimate. So, we see the Paranoia flying in straight onto Viper. But there's no follow-up because he's way too far away. Kanavi trying to get in range to get a follow-up Moonfall, unfortunately is not enough. And then Flandre just picks up Kanavi and brings him into his own team. Try as he may. Kanavi gets knocked out of the fight twice in that entire scuffle. Poor thing. Trying his best to jump in, unfortunately not having just not being able to, as Flandre and both Flandre and JJ having their eyes set on his positioning, not wanting to give anything up, and pretty much winning the fight off of the efforts of the jungler and solo laners of EDG. Now Flandre might not have had too much to do in the laning phase, but is so far making some catastrophic plays right now in the mid game. We're close approaching the late game situation, I suppose you could say. It's already 23 minutes, considering the fact that most, actually no, it doesn't really matter, I suppose, but considering the fact that most LPL games do end in 30 minutes. this can be considered a little bit of a actually no, it's still very much on track to end at that time. Anything goes by 35 minutes is considered a late game situation, I think. And the LPL apparently prides itself on being a mid game orientated league, as Scout is stalking, looking for someone to take down, but little does he know he is actually the one being stalked, as his distortion is now going to be on cooldown. In jumps Kanavi, who whiffs the moonfall completely. Scout is kiting left and right, back and forth as the teleport is coming in. There is Flandre, as in comes the Solarflare, still tagging up Scout despite all that, but the Facebreaker is there to peel him away from the Zenith Blade. It looks like Scout will be chased down and hunted without mercy as the tower is going down, double Zonia's under it, but it looks like the members of JDG who were there are absolutely in trouble as JJ continues the pursuit, jumping in onto Zoom. Zoom will have no escape, will need to turn and fight, because really a Nocturne cannot run, he cannot hide, and he most definitely cannot live through this, as EDG with fantastic rotation speed, Flandre doing his absolute best to try and keep his mid lane alive. Unfortunately, he was not able to, but even though while his mid laner was not allowed to survive, he was most definitely avenged, as down goes the first part of JDG's base, and it looks like they will lose their mid lane, as well as Flandre is already ran down there to bring the wave as well. EDG looks like, will they attempt? Now Moonfall will be up, as well as Kanavi, in about 7 to 10 seconds, so EDG do need to be careful, as the return could come, and it looks like they are fully aware of the potential of a flip, and as a result will do call off the siege. And just as quickly as the game has, and just as super quickly actually, it's unfortunate. I think Kanavi expected Scout to try and jump in on him and one-shot him over there, and Scout probably would have, but he didn't have his distortion of cooldown, and that's a large part of his burst. And this Zenith Blade, beautiful Zenith Blade block coming in here from Flandre, doing his darndest, trying his best, but alas, it was not enough, and he decides, in a fit of rage, just opts to try and avenge his teammate, which he does eventually, to his credit. And JJ frontlining, absolutely just keeping the rest of JDG. Literally, one man just kept 3 people away, allowing his AD carry and support to get in position to help Flandre, and he just frontlined. That's it. That's beautiful. That's perfect. That's absolutely what you want to see. Whew. Now, while JDG have managed to get a decent number of items, nothing can mask the fact that they are 10,000 gold behind, and Kanavi is forced to pop his stopwatch the second he sees Scout fly in from over the wall, because pretty much one more second later and you wouldn't be alive to pop the stopwatch. So while you don't have protection for your team fight, for your attempted team fight winning combination, you do have your life, and you will be available and present for that. Funny thing is, though, Scout doesn't even need to wait very long to be able to one-shot people yet again. Being so far ahead, he might not even need his ultimate, because he currently is working on his third items. Looks to be a Rabadon's Death Cap. Taking quick inventory of the items, it looks like there's a stopwatch on JJ. Meanwhile, no protection for Vipers for Scout. Viper does have his own stopwatch, as well as JDG are just getting sieged down upon. Dragon is live, and Baron will be spawning in a minute and 50 seconds time. It looks like EDG just want to take the game a little bit slow, take Dragon first, and maybe contemplate sieging bot side tower. Flandre ahead of his team, getting things done as quickly as he can, as Scout just continues to skulk and lurk on his own, shadowing and looking for weaknesses, poking and prodding at cracks that he can see, creating opportunities for his team. Oh. Whew. It looks like off of that recall, EDG are surely going to just play for securing topside vision, as well as preparing for this Baron, which looks to be ultimately the last objective to be claimed on the map, last neutral objective, obviously, with EDG looking to claim JDG's Nexus. Kanavi is about to face check into yet another death sentence if he's not careful, or maybe a stride breaking set as Flandre gets the face breaker off as well. Kanavi forced to dash out onto the minion wave. Thankfully for him, it was there, and Scout walking forward ever so aggressively, ever so intimidatingly, as Zoom looks to be found now by Scout, and this looks to be his doom, because there's no way he's gonna get away from Scout. The continuous chains and the burst damage coming in, the most tanky and fed member of JDG is absolutely eradicated in a moment's time, in in front of Viper as he stood no chance. Barrett is spawning in 20 seconds, but looks like EDG are preparing to end the game before that moment in time as they both jump in 3-man strong onto Scout with a vengeance. The support mid lane and jungle of JDG looking for revenge, and right now EDG decide, alright, that changes only very little as now we may not be able to end the game, but we will take this Baron buff, and I think in the end the results will be the same. Oh no. Looks like a bit of miscommunication happens even in the highest leagues, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you need to worry about that. I've missed 1,000 lanterns going back to late. Oh, as a quote-unquote AD carry, do I really hate that role. Oh, holy Jesus. My nose is actually killing me. Okay, let's see. Whew. Ooh, it's the utter catastrophe of a broadcast, truth be told. Well, I think there's nothing more to see here. I think we're done.